So, in honor of Disney's Dinosaur ride closing down at Walt Disney World, I thought I would watch this movie. And just like it was when I was a kid and as an adult, I think this movie's pretty good in the sense of the VFX and the plot's pretty okay. I will say the writing's pretty weak at some points, in my opinion. I think it is. Which, to be fair, it's a movie about dinosaurs, but still, the main problem I have with it is the writing. Besides that, this movie is peak underappreciated Disney movie. Now, I wouldn't say it's as good as Hunchback of Notre Dame or anything, but all in all, it's still a pretty good movie. It's a beautiful movie, first of all, and not to mention the visual effects again. The soundtrack too. Oh my god, I didn't realize how good the soundtrack for this was until I watched it today, and just wow. I would almost compare the soundtrack to the Halo soundtrack. If you ever listened or played the Halo games, you know what I mean. But I would put this soundtrack up there with it. Between that, the VFX, and just the plot in general, I wouldn't say the plot is bad. Just the writing is not the strongest because the plot isn't bad because it's unique. Because it's a movie about dinosaurs, so you have different kind of devices moving the story forward. The current, I guess, in a sense, like a group of people being chased by something is not unique, but the story, how the story itself is set up in a way because of the meteor and everything, I think that's unique. And I could be totally wrong. I may watch a movie next week, but that's really just dinosaurs in a different sense. But as of right now, I think it's got a fairly unique plot. I will say I do find that the one lemur character a little annoying sometimes, but besides that, that's really my main gripes with it is the writing and that one character. Besides that, this movie's freaking scary sometimes. Like I remember enjoying it as long as a kid, and as an adult, when I watched it today, I was like, how was I not scared of this movie when I watched it as a kid? Like, I was scared of E.T. until I was like 5 or 6. I'd say I started watching E.T. when I was like 4. So there's that. I don't know how I didn't find this scary. Which, to be fair, I didn't have access to this movie nearly as much as I did E.T. I never really got to watch a ton of it until our streaming services became a thing, and like we had Disney Plus and things like that, or maybe like randomly have come on TV every once in a while if Disney felt like actually giving this movie some love. But if you don't know how this movie is shot, a lot of the landscape scenes are actual landscape. I think they did some shooting in Hawaii and India and maybe some other places. I can't think of the top of my head. I'm sure they did. But they would go shoot the landscape and then they would put the VFX over the landscape, which for a movie from 2000, it looks really well implemented. Obviously, the dinosaurs look cartoony in a sense, they're anthropomorphic. But when it comes to that, they look pretty good, especially the Carnotaurus, which is a fictional version of the dinosaur itself. Because Carnotaurus was a whole lot smaller, and this was a more gigantomorphic version of it, I guess would be the word. And the reason why the Carnotaurus is so big, because originally they were going to use a T-Rex, but while they were still in the pre-production of this movie, Jurassic Park had come out, and so did The Lost World. So they want to rip off Jurassic Park by using the T-Rex. So that's how they come about using the Carnotaurs, which I think is more intimidating, especially being more of a kids movie, because of the horns and just them. The excuse me, them making the Carnotaurs bigger in this movie helps a lot. And the horn, it just makes it more. They look more intimidating with the horns and the real spiky scales and stuff. I think they do a good job of making the antagonists and Guandons look pretty. I'm sorry, I'm looking for pretty aggressive with the horns, I guess you'd call it, on their noses, and then the larger spike scales going down their backs. And I do like how they portray the iguanodons well. For the most part, they're pretty accurate, if I understand. Besides, they don't have a bill. These have lips and stuff like a regular theropod would or something like that. Which I guess would be harder to make a anthropomorphic iguanodon with a bill. But this may have been before that time. This was 2000. This is the new millennium, so they may not even realize that yet. But anyway, I don't really know what else is accurate or inaccurate about the dinosaur. The raptors are fairly accurate. I don't know what raptors are supposed to be. They're not velociraptors, I know that. I feel like they're supposed to be troodons, but I don't think that's right either. I don't remember. It's some kind of raptor. I do remember that much. And the little gripe I say every time I watch this movie is that when the meteor hits, because if you ever like if you've seen anything that talks about the meteor hitting Earth and how it killed all the dinosaurs, basically it covered basically excuse me basically the entire atmosphere was full of ash and dust and radiation, and essentially caused a complete blocking of the sun, and ash filled the air. And most terrestrial dinosaurs were dead at the time, not at the time of impact, but shortly after the impact anyway. And anything that did live was shortly died of disease or hunger or any of the other things that could have killed the dinosaurs. It's just even a lot of the aquatic prehistoric reptiles died. Pretty much all avian reptiles died, besides just a couple. And obviously, there was some certain things that made it because they eventually evolved into our modern day birds and other aquatic creatures. And there's some small mammals around that time that have survived and evolved since then. And everything such as that. That's that's the crap I have every time because like, oh, it's nice, clear, sunny days when it should be full of ash and everything's basically dead. But speaking of the meteor in this movie, I do remember as a kid, I always thought that part was the scariest because when the explosion goes off and when the meteor hits, this sends that first shockwave, and then as you hear the second shockwave coming, it has that real screechy sound. It almost sounds like a monster or something. I always thought that was a very cool, some very cool sound design to intend the show that is intimidating in a sense. But I gushed over this movie a good bit, didn't I? I think that's gonna be it for this video. If you've never seen Disney's Dinosaur, I I think it's at least underappreciated, if not underrated. I was kind of surprised when I saw the Rotten Tomato scores, the how low the audience score was. It was lower than the critic score, and I was like, really? I found that insane to me, because especially dinosaur lovers love that movie. As far as I know, I always have. I always really enjoyed this movie. But I gave it a 4.5, I believe, on Letterboxd. It was either 4 and 4.5. I think I did 4.5. I think that's pretty fair with with the gripes I've had, with the gripes I've had about it. But I think it's pretty good. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll probably see you next time. Not sure what I'm gonna watch next. It's probably either gonna be one of the new Godzilla movies that don't have a sequel, or maybe Ford versus Ferrari. I've been kind of thinking about doing one of those. But anyway, you guys have a good day or good night, and I will see you tomorrow.